It's not often that I start a series and then instantly fall in love with it. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and as always guys, I am Andrew. Today guys, we are here to talk about The Wandering Inn by Pirate Abba. Before we get into that, please like this video and subscribe to the channel as it does help the channel grow. And while you're doing all that, check the description box down below for links to all my social media, including information about my Patreon if you want to help support what I do here. It is always appreciated, but never required. And without any further ado, we need to jump into this series. And guys, I have to tell you, this is something special. Because I've got a little bit of a history with like lit RPG and web serials. Like I did Superpowers right as it was coming off of web serials. That was by Drew Hayes. And so I knew about them. And then of course I've engaged in a couple things that have been adapted from Royal Road. I've got a completely different video about this coming out here. Mainly because of The Wandering Inn. And I just wanted to talk more about that subject. So be on the lookout for that. But this is a book review. And essentially, like the only other lit RPG I had done was like Dungeon Crawler Carl. And this is something completely different. This is something special and unique. Just letting you know how I feel right off the bat. I loved this. It was amazing. Literally, by the time I reached the first interlude, I had already I was already looking at merch. I was already wanting to buy like hoodie. I was wanting to get the logo on my person. I joined the Discord, I had gone to the website, I was looking at the website, I realized that the volume 1 has been updated, so there should be an updated version of the book that I'm talking about coming out here, kind of tightening up some things, and kind of adjusting some timelines and stuff like that, but still, the core story is still there, relatively, or I should say mostly unchanged, but I mean, I was just immediately infatuated with this world, and if you're thinking that, oh, it's just The Wandering Inn. It's this overly long series about some girl running an inn. No, that is not what this is. That's a little bit of what this is, but that's not what this is. Essentially, we've got two girls who have come from our world. Not specifically from Earth, our world. Because there are certain cultural references dropped in that become very relevant in the story. Basically like iPhones, YouTube, Harry Potter, these references pop up throughout the story because these girls are from here. We've got Erin Solstice and we've got Ryoka Griffin. And these are two very wildly different girls. But essentially what's ended up happening is they took a wrong turn and somehow teleported into a fantasy world. And I'm just going to refer to one of these locations as the city of Liscor because that's where a lot of this takes place. And basically, Erin kind of takes a wrong turn while going to the bathroom in the middle of the night and ends up face to face with a dragon. She narrowly escapes and is just kind of wandering through a field when she comes across an abandoned inn. And basically what she does with that is she lets herself in, realizes there's nobody really about, this place looks abandoned, and it's filthy. So she decides to just start cleaning it up a little bit so that she could feel great, or, accomplish a small task just to kind of sit there and process what's happened to her. She doesn't quite understand what's going on. And once she does that, she kind of falls asleep and gets a notification that she's leveled up her innkeeper skill. And that's kind of weird because in our world, we don't have leveling. And in this world, there is a leveling system. There's a whole culture based around leveling. It's very ingrained and built into this world. I mean, you've got levels for everything, and those levels come with skills. And basically, Erin has to kind of adapt as somebody from our world in a fantasy world with leveling and just drakes, gnolls, dragons, wizards, adventurers, dungeons, skeletons, giant rock monsters, goblins. It's all here. It's fascinating because what's interesting is she is going to take her preconceptions and her culture and her way of how she thinks her world should work, and she's going to try and interject it in a world where none of that applies. And so how she feels about police brutality, how she feels about race, how she feels about treating other sentient human beings, how the world works, all of that comes with her from our world into a world that does not recognize any of it. And so watching Erin adjust to that, fascinating. It's so cool because I don't think I would be personally any different than what Erin's doing. I would have my own preconceptions. I would have my own views of like, you can't do that. That's clearly wrong. Well, that's the thing about culture shock. Back in college, I took courses on anthropology and how that kind of works within social constructs. And culture shock is a real thing, and Erin is experiencing it hardcore. And I don't think that if I was all of a sudden face to face with goblins and near life and death situations and Antenium and insectoid creatures and drakes, that I would handle it any better than she is. And then we've got Ryoka. Ryoka is she's this girl with a chip on her shoulder. She comes from a half Japanese family. Her father's a politician, and she's got a history of being expelled from schools, of getting into lots of fights. She's studied martial arts. She's incredibly talented, and she's very athletic. She is a runner. She got a scholarship to college to go track and field, and so she's a naturally gifted runner. And so that's what she does, is when she finds herself in here, she just decides to join a runner's guild. And essentially what the runner's guild is they're just the courier service. Like, if you want something very fast and you don't want to deal with traffic jams with the carts and stuff, you hire the runner's guilds. And basically Ryoka has a chip on her shoulder. She thinks she's, tough. She's got, this chip on her shoulder, like I've already said. She's got this aggressive demeanor. She's very antisocial, just gruff, brusque, everything like that. And Ryoka keeps everybody at, just an arm's distance. Additionally, Ryoka doesn't play well within social constructs. She thinks she wants to do something, and if pressure is applied to her, she's gonna push back on it. She doesn't like it. And that leads to confrontations, and she gets aggressive about it. And she just does not want to play by the rules because she has this sense of entitlement that she is better, and she doesn't need the leveling system in this world to prove that she is of worth, and that comes from her background. And it's very interesting to get to explore that. And dealing with Ryoka is very interesting because a lot of times you'll see her do something, you're like, oh, that's super cool. Because one of the things that applies here is the leveling system. And with the leveling system is humans interact with the leveling system different than the native denizens, which is where the progression element of this series comes in. Basically, the humans are leveling faster than the normal people. It is very rare for a denizen of this world to reach past 30. Extremely rare if they reach level 40. And then it's almost unheard of if they reach level 50. That's like a legendary being. But within just a couple weeks of being there, Erin is already level 13 in certain classes of Innkeeper, which is very fast. That's supposed to take years of study, but she's just getting it really quickly. So that's kind of interesting, and I'm interested to see where this is going to go throughout this series. Now, there is a disclaimer. This series is incredibly long. It is probably, I think, I'm going to give you rough estimates, 11 million words, which is equivalent to around 16,000 pages long. The audiobooks are around 40 hours long on the short side. I think Volume 2 is going to be around 60 hours. I did consume this via ebook and audio, but you can still read it for free on the website. And I like to say this. This is a web serial. This is something that can be just a daily reader. You can come in and read just short snippets and consume it on a daily basis without having to dedicate hours to it. If you take enough nibbles or bites, you can eat an elephant. So this is a very digestible series. I instantly fell in love and started binging it. So by the time this is out, I've probably already started Volume 2. I absolutely love this series. I love the pacing. I love the characterization. I was told this was a cozy fantasy. I would call this a darker cozy fantasy. Mainly because there are some very, cozy fantasy is warm feelings and kind of hugs and just, this is a feel-good read. This book will get you in your feels. There are some very humbling moments for our characters. There are some very dark moments for our characters. Erin and Ryoka both deal with some very dark and depressing things. Seeing Ryoka grow, because she's got this thick callus across her just soul and her heart, And I think across the series, I am guessing that is going to be pried off a little bit, but it's going to be a journey getting there. And then Erin very much wants to go home. She very much comes from a loving family. And knowing that she can't quite just go home, and learning that she does have restrictions within this fantasy world, and that she really has to start over again. She has to discover the culture, how this world works. It's fascinating stuff. I absolutely loved this reading experience. I did say that I consumed this on audio, and the narrator is amazing. That is one Andrea Prasanu. I believe I've said that incorrectly, but I did give it a good shot. But it is a good, great, fantastic audio experience, especially when she's doing the voices of the Antinium. I love that because they're essentially ant creatures, and they've got this kind of clicking sound to their voice, and I love how she does that. Overall, fantastic experience. I would say fun-wise, this was a 5 out of 5. Characterization, 5 out of 5. Inventiveness, 5 out of 5. You can kind of see where this is going. Pacing, I'd give this one about a 4 out of 5 because it has faster moments and it has slower moments. But overall, mostly a fast-paced book. For as long as this book was, I got through it really quickly. It was just a really fun experience getting to explore the guilds and the characters and the adventurers and the classes and how the society works is very interesting and intriguing and fun to unpack. I've been doing these kind of short, like, snapshot glimpses, like, non-spoiler sort of way, shorts on the channel. Well, I guess they were regular uploads. They weren't shorts, but they were regular uploads. And those have been a lot of fun. I think I've got about 3 of those in the bucket by now. And yeah, it's been great. That's really my selling point here for you, is I just want more people to check out The Wandering Inn. Don't be intimidated by the size. If you want something that is just very digestible, a lot of fun with a lot of heart, this is kind of like the pinnacle of it. I am already a fan of this series. I am committing right here, right now, to reading everything. And frankly, I've gone so far as to create a playlist on the channel for all of my Wandering Inn content, because you can bet that there's going to be more of it. So overall, guys, I give this one a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed the series. Even if there is a rough patch, I mean, it makes sense. Like, as I'm reading it, I'll be like, oh, this is kind of frustrating. And then, like, as that chapter will progress, I'm like, okay, but they know it's frustrating. The author is very aware of what's going on in this moment. And they are going to make sure that it comes across that, yes, this is a frustrating moment, and here's why it's frustrating. So it all just comes around and makes perfect sense to me. I don't know, I instantly fell in love with it. The series initially came on my radar because of Matt's fantasy reviews, and since then I've just dived in head first. I'm in love. That's all I've really got for you today, guys. Please do yourself a favor and check this one out. I know it's long, I know it's a big commitment, but again, tiny little bites. That's all I'm going to say. Till next time, peace out, stay magical. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons. I could not do this without you.